first of all, I'd like to say how grateful I am for both the public and businesses on the Isle of Man to really pull together. Back in July and August, when we brought this ban in, we were very worried about the stocks, the reservoir stocks, as you say. They were down to close to 50%. And also, because of the exceptional weather, we were losing a lot through evaporation. And that's why we brought the ban in. What we've seen is that people really have embraced this. We've seen quite a significant drop in the usage of water, and with the rain, the little bit of rain, as you say, that have happened, the stocks now are up to sort of 78, 82% in the various reservoirs. So we're confident now we've got enough water to see us through the winter, even if it's a dry winter. And we're quite happy to lift the hosepipe ban, but we would still say for people to use the water wisely, because I think what this has shown is that as a small island, we are vulnerable to some of the extremes of weather that we've been seeing right around the world this summer.
Should something have been implemented sooner, before those stocks got as low as they did in early August?
No, I don't think so. What we're doing now in terms of Manx Utilities is learning the lessons from this summer. I think what was really different this time was that although the stocks were low, it was the long-range weather forecast that was very, very dry, very hot, and we learnt so much more about the evaporation and the amount of water we were losing that way, as well as the amount of water that people were using to water gardens, to wash their cars. Again, this has been one of the big tests for the infrastructure. The last really dry summer we had like this was back in the 1970s. Since then, we've had the Solby Reservoir built, and that really came into its fore. And so what we now need to do is look ahead and say, if the same thing happens again, would we do things differently? Would we perhaps reduce the amount of water that goes from West Baldwin and the Solby reservoirs into the rivers a little bit sooner? Would we bring in more education before necessarily a hosepipe ban? But I'm glad to say that the stocks are back up to safe levels now, and we can lift this ban.
What were people like sticking to it? I mean, there was a promise of a £2,000 fine for offenders, for example. Did anyone end up getting prosecuted over this?
Thankfully, no. And I'm really grateful for people with a positive attitude they had towards this. We had about 12 warnings that were sent out to people. None of them did the same thing again. None of them reoffended, so we didn't have to bring in any fines. And I'm happy about that, because, again, it was this cooperative spirit to get through what was an exceptionally dry summer. I just feel sorry for some of the other people affected by the summer, including the farming community, because obviously they're still trying to pick up the pieces from this. But thankfully, Manx Utilities have managed to get through this. The stocks are back up to normal, and hopefully we can get back to a sense of normality now.
How have you been liaising with farmers throughout the period? Because, like you say, there's a big difference, isn't there, between wanting to water your lawn because it's a nice thing to do and you want it to look nice, and actually needing to water your crops, those crops that feed us all, of course, as well.
That's absolutely true. And what I think we saw with the initiative when the NSC was closed and the water needed to be drained there was people thinking about using water, also people washing up water to water their gardens. So yes, we've certainly been trying to keep in contact with the National Farmers Union and farmers, but they've been in a very difficult position of planting, of then seeing their crops literally die in front of them, and also planning as they're planning ahead to see about food stocks to feed the cattle coming into the winter. So I think that we've got through this period, but I think there are a lot of lessons to be learnt in terms of resilience and self-sufficiency on the island.
And I guess people can still carry on, not as they were, obviously, because the ban's no longer in place, but maybe it's caused them to think a little bit about water usage as well.
I think you're very right. We've often talked about energy efficiency and people using energy, electricity, gas, in a sensible way. We need to think about the water as well. And one of the things I know is that people have been going out buying water butts to save what rainfall that has been there to water their gardens with that. And I think that's sensible on an island like ours, that we don't take key infrastructure for granted. We don't take water and some of the key things we need as a modern society for granted, and we treat them with respect.